This would continue the rest of their lives and be a constant reminder of Agnet's failures. Agnet had always been slim, and at 43, she was still well fit, thanks to daily visits to the gym during her lunch break. Emma was old enough to learn self-discipline. It was all about controlling herself, restraining herself, and not giving in to what the body wanted. Agnet had learned it at a young age as well. If you want to stay beautiful and have the world admire you, then you have to work for it. And if something isn't perfect, then you make it perfect. Everything can be changed and molded. That was what Agnet's own mother had taught her, and that was what she was going to teach her daughter, beginning today. So what if she went to bed hungry? So what if Agnet hadn't eaten lunch the last 3 years? So what if she had to put herself through hours and hours of spin classes and suffer from dizziness and nagging hunger? It was all worth it in the end. Why? Because she was admired. Because people looked at her and asked, "How do you do it?" That's when she smiled casually and answered with a shrug, pretending it took no effort at all. "Please, Mom, just 1 cup," Emma said again, touching her mother's arm. Agnet turned her head and looked at her daughter, feeling a slight repulsion from her small chubby hands. "No!" she said with a loud voice. Emma's eyes filled with tears and she pulled back. "Now go to your room and stay there." With a small whimper, Emma obeyed and walked up the stairs. Agnet shook her head and rolled the vacuum cleaner back into the closet, where she put it neatly back in its place. She paused and gazed inside the closet to make sure everything looked perfect in there as well, in case any of the guests opened it by mistake, thinking it was the door to the bathroom. She closed the door with a sigh. She scanned the house quickly to double-check everything was in place and ready for the guests. The clock on the wall said 10:15. She still had an hour before the caterers arrived with the food. Now all she had to do was make sure Emma stayed in her room and didn't make another mess. Agnet poured herself a cup of coffee and closed her eyes while drinking it. She rolled her shoulders to loosen them up. Oh, she had been so tense lately. Those stupid teachers and their strike. It was all their fault. They caused this stress. She'd been forced to take Emma with her everywhere she went the last couple of days. To think that Agnet had to bring her with her to work was horrendous. It had been hard to focus in the meetings, with her sitting in the corner drawing with those little fat fingers of hers, constantly reminding Agnet that she was there, on display for everybody to see her imperfection. It felt like a breach, a fracture in Agnet's character. She didn't want all her employees and her business associates to stare at her fat little face and know that thing had come out of Agnet's lean and tall body. It was simply too humiliating. And now? Now she had to show her to her girlfriends from the boarding school, just because of those stupid lazy teachers. When Agnet planned the event, she deliberately picked a weekday, so both Emma and her husband would be out of the house. But now this infamous strike, and Agnet had no way of getting rid of the little fatling. She had even tried to get her nanny to come and take her somewhere, but she had classes. She was trying to finally finish high school, which she had dropped out of 5 years ago. Yeah, like that was ever going to happen. Of course, the teachers at the adult learning centers weren't on strike. Only those taking care of kids. Why anyone should strike was beyond Agnet's comprehension. Those good-for-nothing lazy teachers should be glad they even had a job with their attitude in this economy. Now no one could even tell when this awful strike, was going to be over, when this nightmare was to end. Agnet shook her head again and opened her eyes slowly. She drank from her cup and almost choked as she looked out the kitchen window's view towards the forest. She coughed and put the cup down. Could it be? Were the gods not done mocking her? She stepped closer to the window and looked up at the heavy gray sky above. Thick white snowflakes were dropping and landing on the new tiles and the perfectly sculptured waterfall with pots of Japanese cold-climate bonsai trees in the backyard, and they didn't melt as they touched the ground. Agnet knew what it meant. It meant the roads would soon be white and slippery, and the traffic in Denmark would stop as it always happened. It also meant her guests would probably be late, and maybe, just maybe, so would the caterers. But worst of all, it also meant she wasn't going to be able to show her girlfriends the new garden that her landscaper had prepared just for this event. With the speed those snowflakes were descending, it would be completely covered with an